What if I told you the US military has already chosen versions of these guns? But the exact models will never be sold to civilians. Same names, same platforms, but very different internals, contracts, and permissions. Today, we're breaking down the pistols that passed duty-level scrutiny, earned institutional trust, and then disappeared behind government walls. You can buy something similar, but not this. And once you understand why, you'll never look at civilian versions the same way again. This video is for educational purposes only and does not promote harm or unsafe use of firearms. Number 8. Shadow Systems DR920. When people hear US military chose this gun, most assume it means a full adoption like the M17. That's not always how it works. In the case of the Shadow Systems DR920, what grabbed attention was how closely this pistol aligns with modern duty requirements that military and federal units actively test for, but civilians can only access in a slightly different configuration. The DR920 is essentially a duty-grade evolution of the Glock 17 platform, built with features the military has been pushing toward for years. Optics, ready from the factory, aggressive slide serrations for gloved use, a flat-faced trigger, and a reinforced frame designed for high round counts. During military and government evaluations, pistols like the DR920 are often tested with specific suppressor setups, select fire compatibility, or restricted internal modifications that civilians legally cannot own. What makes this controversial is that Shadow Systems delivered many of these features years before major manufacturers caught up. The military interest wasn't about branding, it was about reliability under heat, dirt, and sustained fire. The DR920 ran hard without needing aftermarket upgrades, which is exactly what procurement evaluators want. For civilians, the commercially available DR920 is still incredibly close, but it stops short of the restricted configurations tested in government trials. That gap is why this pistol sits in a strange space. Military-validated DNA, but a civilian legal final form. And that's exactly why shooters can't stop talking about it. Number 7. Walther PDP Compact. The Walther PDP Compact is one of those pistols that quietly slipped into serious military and law enforcement evaluations, then exploded in the civilian market right after. And that timing? Not accidental. What caught the attention of US military testing units wasn't hype. It was ergonomics and optics readiness done right. The PDP was built from day one around red dot use, not retrofitted like older duty pistols. Its performance duty texture gives exceptional control with gloves, sweat, or rain. Exactly the kind of detail military evaluators care about during prolonged drills and stress tests. Here's where the civilians can't have it. Angle becomes real. The versions evaluated in government trials often include restricted slide cuts, reinforced internal components, specific trigger weights, and suppressor-optimized barrels that are not sold on the commercial market. Civilians get the same external platform, but not the exact configuration that passed military testing. Another big factor: the PDP's super-high grip tang and low-bore axis reduce recoil impulse during rapid fire. In testing environments where split times and shooter fatigue matter, the PDP consistently performed at a level that surprised even Glock-dominant evaluators. Walther didn't win headlines for a massive adoption, but they earned something just as powerful: quiet respect inside procurement circles. That's why so many duty-focused upgrades on newer pistols suddenly look very PDP-inspired. For civilians, the PDP Compact is still elite. But the exact version the military examined? That one stays behind the curtain. Number 6. Sar9 Compact X. The Sar9 Compact X is where this conversation starts getting uncomfortable for a lot of people, because it challenges the idea that only legacy American or Western European brands can meet US military-level standards. During US and NATO-aligned evaluations, the Sar9 platform surprised testers with extreme durability, especially under high round counts and adverse conditions. The design passed mud, dust, drop, and extreme temperature tests that many pistols never even get invited to attempt. That's the reason it entered serious military conversations in the first place. But here's the key point tied to this title. The Sar9 configuration evaluated by military entities is not the same one civilians can buy. The military-tested versions reportedly featured different internal metallurgy, reinforced locking surfaces, altered striker geometry, and restricted trigger specs, changes meant for sustained combat use, not commercial shells. Civilians get the Compact X shell and ergonomics, but not the exact internals that earned military attention. Ergonomically, the Sar9 Compact X punches far above its price. A 1911-style grip angle, deep undercut trigger guard, and aggressive texturing make recoil control shockingly good for a compact pistol. Evaluators noted that shooters transitioning from Glock platforms adapted to it fast, which matters a lot in military adoption discussions. Where controversy creeps in is politics and procurement. Despite strong test performance, origin and logistics play a massive role in what actually gets adopted. That's why a gun can meet the standard, yet never see widespread issue. Bottom line? The Sar9 Compact X wasn't ignored. It was noticed, tested, and quietly respected. But the version that impressed military evaluators? That one isn't for civilians. Number 5. Shadow Systems MR920. The Shadow Systems MR920 is one of the clearest examples of how close civilians can get to a military-grade sidearm and still be kept just outside the rope. On paper, the MR920 looks like a refined Glock 19. In reality, it's a duty pistol built from the ground up for professional end users, including law enforcement units and government contracts that require upgrades. Glock won't ship to civilians. That's why it keeps popping up in conversations tied to military and federal evaluations. What sets the MR920 apart is its combat-focused design philosophy. The pistol comes optics-ready by default, with a proprietary mounting system that doesn't require adapter plates, something military evaluators care about because plates fail under hard use. The slide serrations, barrel fitment, and recoil system are all tuned for sustained firing schedules, not range days. Here's where the title hits home. The configurations evaluated for duty and government use are not identical to what civilians buy. Military and agency variants may include restricted trigger weights, different striker springs, altered firing pin safeties, and contract-specific internal tolerances. Civilians get the performance feel, but not the exact internal spec that passes procurement testing. Another reason the MR920 gets attention? Interoperability. It runs Glock mags, Glock holsters, and Glock support gear, making it extremely attractive for large organizations that can't overhaul logistics overnight. So why don't civilians get that version? Liability, procurement rules, and policy, not performance. The MR920 isn't a rumor gun. It's a near-miss military pistol, and that's exactly what makes it controversial. Number 4. Gerson MC28 SAT. The Gerson MC28 SAT is the kind of pistol that quietly triggers loud conversations, especially when people realize how close it comes to service-grade performance at a civilian price point. On the surface, it looks like just another polymer striker-fired handgun. But dig deeper, and you'll see why it keeps getting mentioned in discussions tied to military trials and export contracts. Gerson builds this pistol with a duty-first mindset. The MC28 SAT ships optics-ready, has aggressive slide serrations, a threaded barrel option in some configurations, and a frame texture designed for gloves and wet conditions. Features that matter to military and law enforcement evaluators, not just YouTube reviewers. Reliability under heat, dirt, and extended firing cycles is where this gun earns respect. Here's the key point tied to the title. Certain MC28 SAT configurations are produced specifically for government and security contracts, and those exact versions don't reach U.S. civilian shelves. Why? Import regulations, contract exclusivity, and compliance issues. Some duty variants include restricted fire control components, different striker geometry, or suppressor-rated internals that trigger red tape when brought into the civilian market. What American buyers get is a slightly toned-down version, still capable, but not identical. Another reason this pistol gets attention is value pressure. When a gun performs close to established duty pistols but costs hundreds less, it disrupts procurement politics and brand loyalty fast. The MC28 SAT proves something important. Access isn't about capability. It's about policy. This isn't a budget toy. It's a contract-grade pistol civilians only see halfway. Number 3. Smith & Wesson M and P9M 2.0 Compact. The Smith & Wesson M and P9M 2.0 Compact sits right at the center of the conversation whenever military adoption and civilian access collide. This platform is directly tied to the U.S. military's modular handgun system trials. And while civilians can buy an M and P9 Compact, they cannot buy the exact version the military evaluated or fielded. And that distinction matters more than most people realize. From a design standpoint, the M2.0 Compact was built to survive duty of use. The steel-reinforced chassis runs the full length of the frame, improving rigidity and recoil control under high round counts. The grip texture is intentionally aggressive, borderline uncomfortable for casual shooters, but perfect for gloves, sweat, and stress. This is a fighting pistol, not a range toy. Here's where the title comes into play. The military and federal contract variants include internal changes civilians never see. Specific trigger geometries, different sear housings, altered striker assemblies, and durability-focused coatings not offered on commercial SKUs. Add in contract-only testing standards and serialized compliance rules, and those exact pistols stay locked behind government procurement walls. Even magazine and safety configurations differ depending on agency requirements. What you buy at a gun store is a civilian legal cousin, not the duty-issued sibling. The controversy isn't performance. The M&P9 has proven reliability and accuracy. It's access. The gun that earned institutional trust isn't fully available to the public, and that's the pattern you'll keep seeing in 2026. Number 2. Taurus G3 Tactical. The Taurus G3 Tactical is controversial. For one reason, it delivers duty-style features that look military-ready. Yet the versions civilians can buy are not the same configurations evaluated or fielded by government users abroad. And that gap between capability and access is exactly why this pistol keeps coming up in debates tied to military adoption. On paper, the G3 Tactical checks a lot of boxes that procurement teams care about. You're looking at a threaded barrel, suppressor height sights, optics-ready slide, and a full-size grip that manages recoil well under rapid fire. The trigger is striker-fired but tuned heavier than many range pistols, intentional for stress shooting and drop safety. Reliability is the headline here. The G3 series has built a reputation for running dirty, hot, and cheap ammo without drama. Now here's the part most people miss. Certain G3 tactical variants are built for government and export contracts, not US commercial shelves. Those versions may include different internal safeties, striker assemblies, barrel treatments, or suppressor-rated components that complicate civilian import and compliance. What Americans get is a compliant version, still capable, but not identical. This is where the title fits. The gun concept was validated for duty use, but civilians only see the trimmed version, and that frustrates shooters who recognize the value. The G3 Tactical proves something uncomfortable. Sometimes it's not about quality, it's about permissions. Number 1. Glock 19 Gen 5. The Glock 19 Gen 5 might be the most misunderstood gun on this entire list, because civilians think they already have the Glock the military uses. The truth? They don't. And that gap between the commercial Gen 5 and the government-issued variants is exactly why this pistol belongs under this title. The Glock 19 platform has been trusted by military units, federal agencies, and special teams worldwide for decades. Gen 5 brought real upgrades: the Glock Marksman barrel for improved accuracy, ambidextrous slide stop, no finger grooves, and enhanced internals designed to survive brutal duty cycles. It's compact enough for carry, large enough for duty, and boringly reliable, which is exactly why professionals love it. But here's the part civilians rarely hear. Military and agency Glock 19 variants are not off-the-shelf guns. They're built under contract with different coatings, stricter tolerances, proprietary internal parts, and compliance-driven serial tracking. Some configurations include features, testing standards, or support packages that simply don't exist in the civilian market. Even magazine specs, trigger components, and maintenance intervals can differ depending on the contract. What civilians buy is a commercial Gen 5, not the exact duty-issued configuration that earned institutional trust. So yes, you can buy a Glock 19 Gen 5, but the Glock the US military chose? That version stays locked behind contracts. And that's the reality most people don't want to admit. Outro. These pistols prove one thing: performance isn't always the issue, access is. The guns the military trusts aren't always the ones civilians can buy. Let me know which one surprised you most. Hit like if this opened your eyes, and subscribe for honest, no-nonsense firearm breakdowns.